Bonsoir à toutes et à toutes. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Bienvenue
Welcome to the Carousel du Louvre in the heart of Paris for the first sport summit for sustainable development.
Durable. Bienvenue également à vous qui nous
Welcome to
suivez en
everyone
ligne.
who's following us online as well. There are many of you. And you know that tomorrow, the opening ceremony of the Paris 2024 Games will happen. Paris is welcoming the whole world with one ambition, to have organized games open to everyone, which are more responsible, more sustainable, show more solidarity, and are more inclusive. And this is exactly the reason for us being here for the Sport for Sustainable Development Summit.
Development Summit, going to get that right.
A summit which is going to bring us together here, more than 50 heads of state whose countries have chosen to act following the 10 commitments of the Paris Agreement for sport in the service of sustainable development.
In
the next few minutes, here on this stage, I really have to call it this racetrack, the representatives of the biggest international organizations in the world, athletes and young people, all of whom share one conviction, that sport is, and you share this all in this room as well, I feel sure, that sport is an accelerator for sustainable development, especially in terms of education, health, equality, and inclusion. And our commitments can be experienced like a sort of marathon, and this summit is going to be more like a speed race. And we're going to have very short speaking times. The speeches will be intense and strong, and it really is going to be a sprint that our participants are going to be taking part in. We are running to a very strict timetable here. We know the games are opening tomorrow, but we're in a race here and now today. We encourage all of you to share this extraordinary moment that we're going to experience together on social media. Make it heard as far and wide as possible. There's just one hashtag to use, Sport4SD. And to open our first summit on sport for sustainable development, I would thank you to warmly welcome the Director General of the AFD Group, Mr. Rémy Rioux.
Mesdames et messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement,
Heads of state and government,
mesdames et messieurs les présidents,
Presidents,
mesdames et messieurs les ministres,
Ministers, Your
Mesdames et
Excellencies,
messieurs,
ladies and gentlemen.
quel honneur et
It
quelle
is a
joie
huge honor
immense
and a huge
de
joy
vous accueillir
to
tous
welcome you
aujourd'hui.
all here today.
Nos leaders,
Our leaders
rassemblés,
brought together,
le mouvement olympique,
the
avec
Olympic
toutes
movement
ses
with all of its
fédérations,
federations,
les Nations
United
Unies,
Nations,
et
and
le Comité
the International
international
Olympic
olympique,
Committee,
avec
with
tous les
all
acteurs
of the most
les plus
committed
engagés
players
dans les territoires,
in all of
auprès
our
des
different parts of the world,
qui
with our
méritent
different
notre soutien.
populations concerned and who deserve
Pour la
our full
première
support. For the very first time,
grand sommet
the biggest
sur le
summit
sport
on
et le
sport
développement durable
and development,
jamais
sustainable
organisé
development that has ever been
à la
organized
veille des Jeux.
just before the Olympic
Il a été
Games.
voulu par le
And
président
this was an
Thomas Bach
idea of our President Thomas
président
Bach
Emmanuel
and
Macron,
of President Emmanuel
que je
Macron,
remercie de leur
who I
confiance.
thank for the trust that they have showed
Dès
us.
2017,
Beginning in 2017, just after Paris was chosen for
le
2024,
gouvernement,
government,
les
local
collectivités
authorities, and the
toute
whole
l'équipe
France
France
team
ont mis le développement
put sustainable
durable
development right
au
at the
cœur
heart
du projet
of
olympique
the Olympic
et de
project
son héritage,
and its legacy,
y compris l'Agence
including
française de
the French
développement
Development
que
Agency,
j'ai l'honneur de
AFD,
diriger,
which I
au-delà
have the
de nos
honor of
frontières,
leading beyond our
et qui a
boundaries,
accompagné
and
depuis
which is
lors
supporting
200
200 projects
dans
in
50 pays
50 countries
avec tous ceux
with
qui
whom we are
transforment
innovating
nos
and
sociétés
transforming
par le sport.
societies through sport.
C'est le sens
And
de
this is
notre
the meaning
sommet,
of our summit.
mettre le pouvoir du
Finally, to
sport
take the power, the strength of sport, inspiration,
d'innovation et
innovation,
d'action
action,
au cœur
and
de
put
nos
it
trajectoires
on
de développement durable.
the heart of our path to
Un
sustainable
sommet
development.
conçu comme un respect,
A summit designed as
une
a form of
politesse,
respect, of politeness, to show and to pay tribute to public policy and the most inspiring projects we can find anywhere in the world. A summit for more ambition, for education, health, nutrition, gender equality, inclusion, climate, subjects that we will explore one after the other. Also to free up more investment, showing solidarity for sport. A demanding summit, finally, because sport does not automatically have impact. Sometimes the opposite happens. Development institutions need to get mobilized more strongly alongside you, showing themselves to be serious and determined and to measure the results they receive over time. So now let us listen to the strength of our commitments. Let us listen to the concrete structuring initiatives that are going to be launched today. And let us hope that those who take up the relay for the Olympic and Paralympic Games in Paris 2024 and who will be in charge and have the honor to host future major sporting events who are here in this room today will make today's legacy even greater. Our shared agenda of sport for sustainable development. I thank you for your attention. And now, let me turn toward the President of the IOC, Thomas Bach, to get our discussion started before we hear a message from the Secretary General of the United Nations. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, on behalf of the International Olympic Committee, a very warm welcome to all of you. Our gathering is a reflection of the extremely fruitful cooperation and partnership between France and the International Olympic Committee in organizing the Olympic Games Paris 2024. This is why I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to our co-host, President Emmanuel Macron, who with his government has set a great example when it comes to promoting the power of sport in society. The Olympic Games are about sport, and they are about more than sport. Sport is health, sport is inclusion, sport is respect, sport is empowerment, sport is solidarity, sport is peace. With our Olympic agenda reforms, the IOC is fully committed to strengthen the role of sport as an important enabler to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Together with our many partners from the UN family, with development institutions and civil society organizations, we are addressing 11 of the SDGs at the same time, be it in health, social inclusion, gender equality, sustainability, peace, and others. And here is how we are doing this. We are building healthy communities in partnership with the World Health Organization. The WHO warns us that globally 1.8 billion adults do not do enough physical exercise. This shocking figure means people are at much greater risk of non-communicable diseases such as heart attacks, diabetes, dementia, or cancer. For all these diseases and predispositions, sport is an excellent preventive tool. When it comes to health, we can truly say sport saves lives. The economic burden of treating such diseases is huge. It costs public healthcare systems around $27 billion every year. Therefore, sport saves lives and sport saves billions of dollars. In this respect, we are very happy with the huge success of our ongoing Let's Move campaign with WHO, which has already inspired 500 million people around the globe to move, to improve their lives, to save healthcare costs. We are promoting social inclusion in partnership with UNHCR. An emblematic symbol of this is the IOC Refugee Olympic team, which will participate with a record number of 37 refugee athletes at the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Beyond the Olympic Games, our Olympic Refuge Foundation is supporting displaced people around the globe by providing safe sport opportunities. This is extremely important for their physical and mental health, for inclusion and for conflict prevention. With these activities, we will, by the end of this year, reach 1 million displaced people. We are advancing gender equality in and through sport. We are happy and proud that the Olympic Games Paris 2024 will be the very first Olympic Games in history with full gender parity on the field of play. This has been achieved by the IOC allocating exactly 50% of the quota places to female athletes and to male athletes. Off the field of play, we have achieved full gender parity in the IOC commissions and have doubled female IOC membership to 42%. When it comes to climate change, the IOC is reducing its direct and indirect emissions by 30% by the end of this year and is on track to achieve a 50% reduction by 2030 in line with the Paris Agreement on climate change. As the leader of the Olympic movement, the IOC, together with UN Climate, has assembled 274 organizations as part of the UN Sport for Climate Action Framework. One partner of this framework, the Paris 2024 Organizing Committee, is setting an impressive milestone by being on track to achieve a 50% reduction of carbon emissions compared to previous Olympic Games, already 6 years ahead of the target set by the Paris Agreement on climate change. The IOC considers peace as the most fundamental of SDGs. In our world torn apart by so much conflict, wars, hate, and division, the Olympic Games are the only event that still manages to unite the entire world in peaceful competition. Tomorrow, you will all witness athletes from the territories of all 206 national Olympic committees and the IOC Refugee Olympic team coming together, competing fiercely against each other while living peacefully together under one roof in the Olympic Village. This sets an example for how our world would be if everyone would respect the same rules and one another. We know that the Olympic Games cannot create peace, but the Olympic Games create a culture of peace. These are just a few examples of how the IOC is bringing the benefits of sports and its values to people around the globe, improving lives in tangible ways. With all these efforts, initiatives and actions, we also want to inspire all of you. Our offer to you is join us. Join us to make the world a better place through sport. Whether you're in government or in business, in a development institution, or like us, from civil society, join us. Our commitment to these partnerships is our Olympic solidarity budget, which we have increased to $650 million for the next Olympiad. This is only possible because our worldwide Olympic partners and media rights holders share our values-driven mission. To them, I say a heartfelt thank you. With all this in mind, I trust that you, the political leaders, will recognize sport again as an important enabler of sustainable development, also in the ongoing negotiations concerning the United Nations Pact for the Future. For this, our shared future, we need to go faster, we need to aim higher, we need to be stronger, and we can only achieve sustainable development together. In this way, I invite you to truly live our Olympic motto, faster, higher, stronger, together. Thank you very much.
Merci, merci mille
Thank
fois,
you.
Président Bach.
Many thanks.
Secrétaire général des Nations
President
Unies,
Bach.
Monsieur
The Secretary General of the United States, Mr. Antonio Guterres, can't be with us tonight, but he really wanted to address this message to you.
Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs,
Your Excellencies,
à la veille
ladies and
des Jeux
gentlemen,
Olympiques de Paris,
on the eve of the Paris Olympic Games, we celebrate sport as a vector of change and sustainable development.
le sport possède un
Sport
pouvoir de
has a
transformation
unique
unique.
transformative power.
Il forge l'esprit
It
d'équipe
builds
et la
team spirit
persévérance.
and
Il
perseverance.
contribue à la
It
santé
contributes
et
to
au
good
bien-être
health and
physique
physical
et
and mental
mental.
well-being.
Il réduit les
It
inégalités,
reduces
favorise
inequalities and
l'inclusion de
promotes
toutes
the
et de
inclusion of
tous.
all.
Le sport transcende
Sport
les
transcends
frontières,
borders,
unit les
unites
peuples
people,
et nous inspire
and
à
inspires
agir
us
pour un
to
monde meilleur.
act for a better world.
Le monde du sport doit
The world of
également
sport
montrer
must also
l'exemple,
lead by example,
en plaçant les objectifs de
by
développement
placing
durable au
sustainable
cœur de ses
development
activités.
goals at the heart of
En
its
investissant
activities,
dans des
by
programmes
investing in
d'éducation et
education and
économique et
inclusion
sociale,
programs,
notamment
as
dans
well
les pays en
as in
développement.
social and economic
Et en
programs in
promouvant
developing
l'égalité
countries,
des genres,
and
l'efficacité
projects
énergétique
that
et
develop
le respect
energy
de notre
efficiency and the
planète.
respect for our planet.
Ensemble,
Together,
faisons équipe
let's
pour un
team
monde
up
plus
for a
juste,
fairer,
plus
healthier,
sain
and more
et plus durable.
sustainable world.
Et je vous remercie.
I thank you.
Merci au secrétaire général des Nations Unies. Elle est née en Afghanistan dans une société conservatrice qui désapprouve la pratique du sport pour les femmes. Après avoir trouvé asile en France en 2016, elle est aujourd'hui chef de mission de l'équipe olympique des réfugiés pour Paris 2024. Elle est ce soir accompagnée de jeunes ayant participé à la modélisation pour la trêve olympique de Paris 2024. Mesdames et messieurs, voici Madame Masomah
Zada.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be here with you and young people from the Festival Sport de la Ville who are calling for the Olympic truce. The Ekeria, a 28th centuries-old tradition endorsed in modern times by the United Nations General Assembly. I started cycling in Afghanistan, in a country where cycling was forbidden for women. I grew up in a society where I was told that as a woman, I had no right to compete and that I wasn't capable of. I stand here today as an Olympian, as a chef de mission of the Refugee Olympic team, as a civil engineering graduate, and as someone who forced to flee my country and seek refuge here in France. The IFC Refugee Olympic team made it possible for refugee athletes like myself to participate and find inclusion at the highest level of sport of competition. And I have seen the power of sport to bring people together in community, to promote physical and mental health and well-being, to bridge social divides, promoting a sense of belonging. Just a month ago, I took part in a women-only handball session as part of the Olympic Refuge Foundation's Terra d'Avenir program right here in Paris, supporting displaced people to access sports across Paris. I even remember one of the women from Sri Lanka. She was 64 years old, lives alone in Paris, and I saw how much she enjoyed to play a sport with the young woman, and I imagined that it was the moment that she could find friends, practice French, and be with the other, communicate, and forget her problems. Together, we can do more to reduce barriers and promote inclusion so that more women, girls, and people affected by displacement can access and benefit from all that the sport has to offer. Many governments, national Olympic committees, international federations, and other stakeholders have already joined the Sport for Refugees coalition and pledged to support refugees through sport, including our host, France. I urge other stakeholders to join this pledge. If you want to foster strong cohesion in your communities, ensuring that displaced people, and particularly women and girls, have access to safe sport is a very good place to start. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.
Again, I guess, thank you. Thank you so much, Masomah. Thank you, amazing, Masomah. Les 10 engagements de l'accord de Paris pour le sport, pour le développement durable sont pensés autour de 5 terrains thématiques. L'éducation et l'emploi, la santé et la nutrition, l'égalité et l'inclusion, le financement et la mesure d'impact, la durabilité et l'héritage, notamment celle des grands événements sportifs. Alors, qu'y a-t-il précisément derrière ces 5 thématiques et les 10 engagements qui en découlent? C'est ce que nous allons découvrir tout de suite.
We're going to see right now. In particular, we'll start with education and employment. Please give a warm hand to Basmala, who's Ambassador for Sport dans la Ville, along with Philippe Audou, who is Director General of Sport dans la Ville, and Audrey Azoulay, who is the DG of UNESCO.
Bonjour à tous les
Good
trois,
afternoon,
bienvenue.
all three,
Je
and
vais
welcome.
commencer avec
Let
vous,
me start
Basmala.
with
J'imagine un
you,
petit peu
Basmala.
votre émotion.
I imagine
Parlez-vous
you're
de nous et
excited and
dites-nous,
delighted to be here.
en fait, il
Tell
représente
us
quoi, le
about
sport?
yourself. What is
Tout
sport
d'abord,
for
je
you?
m'appelle Basmala.
Okay,
J'ai
I'm
grandi à
Basmala,
Saint-Ouen,
indeed.
en
I grew up
Seine-Saint-Denis.
in a poor
Et à
Paris
10 ans,
suburb
je me sentais
called
perdue
Saint-Ouen, and at
et
10,
seule face aux
I
défis
felt
de la vie.
lost and
Je
alone
ne savais
facing
pas
life's
comment trouver ma
challenges. I
place dans la
didn't know
société.
how to find my place in
Le sport
society.
a alors été un tournant pour
And
moi.
sport was a turning
commencé
point
le
for me.
basket
I began with
avec Sport dans la
basketball,
Ville,
working with
une
Sport de la
association
Ville, which is
qui
an
aide les jeunes
association
des
helping
quartiers
young people
prioritaires par le sport.
to use sport
Les
to get on in
éducateurs de
life.
l'association m'ont alors
The
convaincu
association
de rejoindre le
educators
programme d'insertion
convinced me
professionnelle.
to join
J'ai pu
in
être
the
accompagnée,
vocational training
découvrir des
course.
entreprises
So I
et
was
rencontrer
supported, I
des
learned about
profils
businesses, and I met a
Grâce
number
au
of
sport,
very
je suis devenue
inspiring
une jeune femme
profiles, and
confiante,
thanks to sport, I became a
autonome
confident
et
young
engagée.
woman with
J'ai obtenu mon
autonomy
diplôme
and
d'animatrice
commitment.
pour pouvoir aider à
I
mon
got
tour
a
d'autres jeunes.
diploma and qualification to work with other young people. Thank you very much. Congratulations. A round of applause for you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Basmala. Audrey, Azoulay, you've just heard this message coming from a young woman for whom sport changed everything. Sport, obviously, and education are very much about the combats that you are leading as UNESCO DG. Yes, thank you very much. Let me start by thank you, France and the OIC for giving me this opportunity to talk about the importance of sport for UNESCO, as has been brilliantly illustrated, perhaps even better than I can explain. But yesterday in UNESCO we had about 50 or so ministers for PSC representing a lot of your countries to talk about this interaction between education and sport. And what we found above all is that the amount of, according to our data, the amount of time that is given over to sport in schools is inadequate. If you look at UNESCO's recommendations for primary schools, that the pupils should have at least 2 hours of sport a week, we see only half of today's pupils have that access, and that's even less when you look at secondary education. So first and foremost, we have to make sure that children get the right amount of time for sport in school, because sport is highly beneficial in terms of emancipation, self-development and mental health, but above all, you learn all the rest better. When you do sport, you follow the courses and programs are better, and the whole atmosphere at the school is improved. And so I wanted to stress the need to have greater investment in time for sport at school, and UNESCO will be using the games here in Paris to try to encourage this. We also need to use sport outside school more with our sports instructors that take our children after school, doing a fabulous job. Very often it's pure volunteer work, and so they need our investment and support. It's our tradition to support teachers at UNESCO to ensure, for example, that teaching helps us fight discrimination, anti-Semitism, etc. And we will do the same with the sports instructors. That's a big project to be launched by UNESCO. And I also want to welcome and thank all the athletes working in the field of education, Vinicius Jr., the footballer who's doing it in Brazil and in UNESCO, Maya Gabelo, top surfer Nadia Nadine, who is a woman who's a refugee from Afghanistan, who was not just a top athlete,
brillamment réussi des études de médecine.
She's also qualified as a doctor. I think night has fallen on Afghan women, so this is an excellent example of what can be done. Thank you very much, Director General. Thank you all three. Thank you so much for your commitment. Now, I think we need to move towards South Africa, where there is something called surf therapy. We can see that thanks to the waves, sport can be very helpful when it comes to both mental health and nutrition.
The thing that makes me come back here every day, every single time, is because of the ocean. Without the water, I don't know maybe what I would be doing.
We want to make mental health care more accessible and more fun for children living in quite volatile environments. So if you're a child who has been identified by a teacher as having a mental health challenge, we will provide that child with a 10-month surf therapy course.
The role as a coach, what it makes me feel, it's a lot of emotions involved. We make that safe space for them, but in a way, they also make that space for me. That space where I can also put out my inner child. Like, I play a role in their life, but they also play a huge role in my life.
I've been joined on stage by Dr. Tedros, your World Health Organization Director General, and Pau Gasol, living legend of Spanish and world basketball. Welcome to both of you. The second objective of the Paris Agreement on Sport and Sustainable Development is to reduce by 2030 physical inactivity by 15% and to improve health, nutrition, and well-being of individuals. Pau, tell us how can sport really help achieve this goal?
Well, thank you. Dear Excellencies, friends and family of the world of sport and health, more than 1 billion people live currently with obesity, including around 200 million children. The world has surpassed estimates set for 2030, 8 years in advance. And this is not just about numbers. It is a matter of socio-economic inequalities. People who live with obesity are prone to illness, social isolation, decreased productivity, school dropouts, job loss, stigmatization, discrimination. These are some of the reasons why my brother Mark and I created a Gasol Foundation 10 years ago. And why I serve as UNICEF Global Ambassador and Champion for Nutrition and Zero Childhood Obesity. Our goal is to provide equal opportunities for future generations and to prevent and reduce this social and systemic issue in the future. Now we need all hands on deck to stop and address this pandemic. We need to invest resources. We need brave and strong commitments. As Dr. Tedros emphasized at the World Health Assembly, we need all for health and health for all. It is urgent to strengthen health systems, transform food environments, improve the quality of sleep, promote emotional well-being, and to ensure that urban systems are designed to provide safe access to sports and prevent sedentarism. All countries should join these transforming initiatives. I would like to congratulate Paris and the Organizing Committee of Paris 2024 on all its efforts in nutrition and physical activity promotion. As a member of the Athletes Commission of the IOC, I celebrate the power of this community today for committing to using sports to make the world a better place. A community that is inspired by Olympism as a way of life. You all exemplify a global podium from where the sports values are broadcasted, with a unique opportunity to inspire a global audience by promoting a healthier world. There is no better platform to address obesity and influence the political agenda to improve the life of millions. I applaud all countries that are working hard towards this goal. I celebrate that food system sustainability is currently an issue of major importance. I congratulate the WHO and the IOC, a joint program to improve accessibility to sport for everyone, the Let's Move, and to promote understanding of the physical, social, and mental health benefits of regular physical activity. I applaud the WHO that launched the Acceleration Plan to Stop Obesity, now joined by 32 countries, including my home country, Spain, committed to reducing childhood obesity through an ambitious national strategic plan. I call upon you, leaders of the world, friends and family, to undertake fundamental and determined actions that will benefit your countries in a critical way. We need all of you in our team, and as the saying says, always stronger together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pau. Dr. Tedros, the WHO is leading the way in the fight against obesity and physical inactivity. Let you tell us a bit more about it. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Your Excellencies, heads of state, heads of government, my friend President Bach, Excellencies, dear colleagues and friends, at the 1960 Olympic Games in Rome, Abebe Bikila from Ethiopia made history by becoming the first black African to win gold in the men's marathon. Not only that, he ran barefoot and broke the world record. Abebe Bikila inspired generations of runners from Africa and around the world. That's the power of sport, the power to inspire and the power to change. And that's what PO is doing. And that's what WHO is doing in our partnership with the IOC, IPC, and FIFA, harnessing the power of sport for health by promoting physical activity, as what my brother Thomas said by the Let's Move campaign, the grassroots sport, good nutrition, and more. POW and every other elite athlete will tell you that good nutrition is key to their performance. And it's essential for the flourishing of every human athlete or not. Access to nutritious food is a human right and a cornerstone for sustainable development. And yet, globally, 2.3 billion people face moderate or severe food insecurity. And as you heard from POW, millions more live with obesity, live with obesity due to unhealthy and unaffordable diets. Globally, WHO is supporting 32 countries to address obesity through healthier diets, as Paul said, physical activity, and improved health services. We're committed to expanding that support to more countries with the aim of reducing obesity prevalence in each nation by 5% by 2030. WHO supports the Paris Agreement for Sport and Sustainable Development, including the commitment to mobilize for nutrition ahead of the 4th Nutrition for Growth Summit in Paris next year. In every country, the vital ingredient is political leadership. I thank President Macron for his leadership in global health, for supporting the WHO Academy in Lyon, and for co-hosting the WHO investment round. Excellencies, dear colleagues, the Olympic motto, faster, higher, stronger together, must also be our motto for sustainable development. We must move faster, we must aim higher, we must make stronger efforts, and we must work together for the world we want, a healthier, safer, fairer world. Merci beaucoup, and back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Tedros. Thank you, Dr. Tedros. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. Désormais, nous allons prendre la direction du Brésil, sous le soleil de São Paulo,
under the sun of São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, to discover the Gold de Letra Foundation. It was created in 1998 by Brazilian soccer star Rémy, who is with us today. And this foundation contributes to education of children and young people from the favelas. It's been in France since 2002, and have a look. To reintegrate a child who had been pushed aside and show them they have abilities. In fact, short is just the bait. And through that, using it as a teaching aid, we introduce civic values.
Gold de Letra is very important in Caju because it keeps the children from the vulnerability of the streets. It's a place that brings people together, helps working mothers who need to study. So it's really important for Caju. According to WHO, about 1 in 3 women in the world do not exercise enough compared to 1 in 4 men.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are with Ileana Rodriguez. You're an American born in Cuba, a swimmer, a record holder of the 200-meter breaststroke in the United States. Also the former chef de mission of the Paralympic refugee team at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, right? Everything is right. Paralympic. Andrew Parson, you're IPC president, and Sima Bahous, you're the executive director of UN Women. Andrew, I'll begin with you. The Paralympic Games kick off in Paris on August 28th. One of the aims of those games is to accelerate the integration of people with disabilities, right?
Perfect. That's right. Your Excellencies, my IOC member, friends from sport all around the world, Liliana, Mina. Society has made good progress pursuing the inclusion agenda. Disappointingly, though, persons with disability often remain an afterthought and left behind. We cannot achieve equality and inclusion in our world until our cities are accessible, our schools inclusive, and the right of access to sport for the world's 1.3 billion persons with disabilities is a reality. At the International Paralympic Committee, we believe that change starts with sport. Our parasport development programs deliver transformational change in over 160 nations. Access to parasport galvanizes persons with disability to pursue healthy, active lifestyles and active roles in society. Through the Paralympic Games, we witness how the performances of Paralympians inspire seismic shifts in attitudes, empowering persons with disability, transforming societies, where cities and governments, by changing this legislation and improving infrastructure. By exactly listening to the needs of the athletes, the IPC became an expert in accessible and inclusive design and advances the importance of universal design practices in our venues and our cities. No one can describe what this means and why it matters better than Ileana Rodriguez, an athlete, a Paralympian, and a world-leading architect. Ileana.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and good evening, everyone. For me, parasport changed my life. Paralyzed from the waist down as a teenager, my family moved from Cuba to the United States, opening a whole new door for my life. With access to mainstream education, high school sports, I felt empowered to fulfill my ambitions. Driven by a goal to improve accessibility and promote independent living for persons with disabilities, I pursued a career in architecture with a master's degree. While studying, I pursued para-swimming and competed at the London 2012 Paralympic Games. Definitely a life-changing experience. The impact of the game was monumental. Post-game research said that 1 in 3 persons changed their attitude towards disability. Para-athletes performing on the field of play, and you will see it here in Paris 2024, will change the attitude back then in 2012 for 20 million British people. Today, I combine my passion for universal design with my love of sport. When it comes to inclusion, the issue is not the person with the disability. It is the environment, the barrier in our way to fulfill our daily lives. The world will be a much better place if every person had freedom of movement through accessible infrastructure. We're not talking about charity here. We're talking about human rights and great return on investment that benefits everyone. When inclusion is not an afterthought, absolutely everyone can succeed in life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ileana. Thank you, Andrew. Making physical activity and sport accessible to all is the third objective of the Paris Agreement and on sport and sustainable development. Sima Bahous, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to start by thanking President Emmanuel Macron and Thomas Bach, President of the IOC, for your partnership and leadership on advancing women's rights and gender equality. You have made history. Paris 2024 will be the first gender-equal Olympic game ever. It is a true milestone moment, and we at UN Women are proud to be alongside all of you as you reach it together. Achievements such as this one do not happen by accident. They take work, dedication, effort, and courage. And that is the Olympic spirit. Less the race that is run, and more the hours, the days, the months and years of commitment that lead up to it. As we have heard this morning, this afternoon also, sports are a powerful driver of change, of unity, of progress and inclusivity. They promote tolerance and peace. An investment in sports, in equal gender sports, is an investment in women and girls, men and boys. This could not be more urgent now, at a time when the world is desperate for change, but woefully off track in our pursuit of sustainable development and gender equality. With less than 6 years to 2030, we really must come together in spirit and action to accelerate the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals and the promises of the Beijing Declaration nearly 30 years ago. You can count on UN Women to continue driving forward the principles of equality and to lift the achievements and leadership of women on and off the field of play. We invite you all to join these efforts through the Sport for Generation Equality principles. Excellencies, these historic games offer us an opportunity to show the world what equality looks like, to drive home that a gender-equal world, as envisioned in SDG 5, is the bedrock for sustainable, peaceful, and prosperous world. Let us take this moment and build on it. Let us continue pushing for gender equality, for a life free from violence for all women and girls, for equal pay, for spaces that foster and promote women's voices, contributions, and leadership. And let us continue to be inspired by the many women athletes who blazed the trail with resilience and determination, and those who continue to pave the way forward. This is how we honor all athletes at this game, and how we live up to our responsibilities to women and girls around the world. Merci. I look forward to the games tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Sima, Iliana, Andrew, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your commitment. Thank you very much. Now, let's talk about the fourth objective of the Paris Agreement for Sport and Sustainable Development, unlocking the potential of sport through financial mobilization and impact measurement. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Marc Tatum, Deputy Commissioner of the NBA, Antonella Baldino, Ambassador Finance in Common, and Rémy Rioux, Chief Executive Officer of AFD Group. If they want to join me on stage, please. Antonella, prego. Welcome to you, and thanks for joining me. Marc, you've just signed a new TV deal, so let's talk about investment in sport. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Anne-Laura, and it's great to be with all of you today, especially on the eve of these historic Olympic Games. As these next few weeks will demonstrate, and as we've heard throughout the afternoon, sport has a unique ability to bring people together, to teach important values and to transform economies and communities. The momentum for basketball here in France is like nothing we've ever seen before, and these Olympic Games will feature 133 NBA and WNBA players who are going to be competing for their countries, and we know that that's going to create even more momentum for basketball around the world. It'll be a catalyst for that. We believe, as a global sports organization, that it's our responsibility to give back to those communities that we serve and where we have fans. And we're thankful to be working with Rémy and AFD, with other partners like President Kagame, who was here, and President Faye from Senegal, on developing and investing in infrastructure and community programs in Africa. In the last few years, we've greatly expanded our footprint. We've created an NBA Africa entity. We've opened up offices now in Senegal, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in addition to the office in South Africa. And we launched a new Pan-African basketball league called the Basketball Africa League in conjunction with our partners at FIBA. The BL is part of our broader efforts to use sport to drive economic growth, to drive jobs in these communities, and to highlight Africa and its potential and its capacity to be a global leader in showcasing the incredible talent on the continent. And you'll see that with the South Sudan men's basketball team and the Nigeria women's basketball team that will be playing over the next couple of weeks. But as part of our commitment to using the transformative power of basketball to contribute to economic development, for us, we're also focused on access and creating more places, safe places for boys and girls to play the game. And so with that, we're thrilled to announce today that in partnership with AFD and other global partners, that we're going to commit to building 1,000 basketball courts on the continent of Africa over the next decade. We are thrilled that this will provide more places for youth to play and team together to play the game, and we know that that will go a long ways towards teaching them the fundamental values of sports, of teamwork, of respect, and inclusion. So thank you very much, and please enjoy the games.
Thank you so much. Antonella, we're talking about investment. Are public banks ready to invest in sport?
Yes.
Good answer. Antonella.
Yes, thank you, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely honored to take part in this summit, proud to represent the Financing Common, the alliance of all 500 public development banks in the world, 50% of total investment, which launched in 2020, the Coalition for Sustainable Development Through Sport, chaired by Italy, France, and Japan. Proud also to share the ambition of the G7, which this year, under the Italian presidency, promoted for the first time a common vision to advance sustainable investment in sport. Italy is the only country in the world that has created a dedicated bank to finance sport, Istituto per il Credito Sportivo, which I'm representing. From this perspective, I'm particularly proud and pleased to announce here today that our Financing Common Sport Coalition will invest $10 billion by 2030, domestically and internationally, to support local sport infrastructure, grassroots sport activities, and research. We also support the creation of the first global sport impact fund to foster investment in sport for sustainable development. The exact design, governance, and the funding of this fund will be discussed in the run-up to the G7 ministerial meeting on development to be held this October in Italy. I invite all participants to join this sport coalition. Already 6 additional banks joined today: Banco Dex, Caisse de dépôt et consignation, Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, Development Bank of Rwanda, Development Bank of South Africa, CDG Maroc, together with the Laureus Sport for Good Foundation as expert international organization. We will work very hard to finance and seriously assess the development impact of sport initiative. An imperative for our team of public development banks to score faster, higher, and stronger results. So thank you, and arrivederci.
Thank you so much. Grazie, Antonella. Rémy, what about the investments from the AFD group?
Very, very happy to hear Mark's commitment, Antonella's capacity to mobilize all the banks, eager to listen to President Infantino just after us.
No pressure, President.
And of course, this is the privilege of President Macron and my government to express the French ambition, including through its agency, AFD. But now I can make 2 announcements. as the first international partner of the World Bank Group on our joint action in the direction of sport for sustainable development. The first announcement on behalf of our dear friend Maktar Diop, the managing director of IFC, who is held in Washington to his regret, alas, is to announce that for the first time, Proparco and IFC, the private arms of the World Bank, private sector arms of the World Bank and AFD, are joining forces together with Helios Sports and Entertainment Group to increase significantly investment in the sport and entertainment industries in Africa. This is a groundbreaking partnership, and it will play a catalytic role for the development of the whole ecosystem, because sport is also a huge business, creating value and jobs, 2% of GDP in advanced economies. We estimate only about 0.5% in Africa for now. So we are investing. And my second announcement, this time on behalf and with Ajay Banga, the president of the World Bank, now in Rio for the G20 meeting. I'm very proud to announce that the World Bank Group and the AFD will work together on a new report that will explore the contribution of sport to sustainable development and advance our shared knowledge about it. This is very important because we all know that we are still lacking data and research, and the support of the World Bank, which is our knowledge bank, is crucial to progress here and factor sport in the agenda of development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Rémy. Grazie, Antonella. Ci vediamo a Pescara per il G7. Grazie. Thank you to you three. Pour aller plus loin sur ce sujet central du financement et de la mesure d'impact, je vous remercie d'accueillir chaleureusement le président de la FIFA, Gianni Infantino, accompagné de deux légendes du foot français, Yuri Djorkaeff et Jessica Guaradomo.
Yeah, you can applaud. So, Excellencies, dear friends, chers amis, liebe Freunde, cari amici, queridos amigos, everyone in this room and around the world, what a pleasure, what an honor it is to stand here with these two incredible legends. Now, Nelson Mandela once said, if there is one thing in this planet that has the power to bind people, it is soccer. I am proud to be able to represent soccer or football at this particular moment, and this statement of Nelson Mandela is exactly our mission. It is, it was, and it will be. We want to unite in peace, we want to unite in passion, we want to unite in joy, unite countries, unite the world, because you must know, of course, that FIFA is actually an official provider of happiness to humanity since 120 years, and we plan to go on for the next 120 at least as well. Now, a bit more seriously, of course, FIFA is an association of 211 member states, member countries, member associations, more than the United Nations. We are all over the world, in every corner, and we take this responsibility also very, very seriously. Our investments impact 50 million registered players, boys and girls, women and men, 500 million children in schools, and 5 billion fans all over the world. So, of course, there is more margin here to do better. And for this, we need you. We need you all. We need your engagement. Now, I was asked by my dear friend Rémy and his colleagues to be concrete, right? And I like that because I like to be concrete. So I want to make 3 pledges here. The first one is that, of course, we continue to unite the world with football and with sport, generally, as Thomas and his team are doing, we are all doing in these Olympic Games and in the football tournaments. The second pledge is that we'll continue to invest in our solidarity programs. In the next 2 years, it is over $2 billion to reach the 5 billion mark that we have planned when I was elected president in 2016-17. So over 2 billion in the next 2 years in 211 countries in projects like Football for Schools, in which many of you are part, UNESCO, AFD, in projects like the Talent Development Scheme, where we want to build 75 academies in 75 countries around the world, in the FIFA Forum project, impacting competitions of girls and boys, millions of girls and boys all over the world. And this is the second pledge. And the third pledge, that's where I need all of you to participate. So we can obviously not do less than our friends of basketball. So we commit and we pledge to build 1,000 mini pitches around the world in schools, in rural areas, in cities, together with everyone. But more than that, anyone in this room or outside this room who is listening to this can make a pledge to build 1 pitch more, and we will match every pitch that anyone here or anyone outside of this room wants to put together. So these are our very concrete pledges to make people play. And before I conclude, just the additional time, I give the floor to Jessica and to Yuri.
Bonjour à tous.
Good afternoon, everyone. Since I was little, especially thanks to the upbringing my parents gave me, I understood how important solidarity was. Thanks to my career, I've become somewhat well-known, and now I'm trying to put that to good use, so as to be able to make a lot of change possible. That's what I'm trying to do. But especially, I'm trying to get things moving and make people more aware of causes that are important to me. And I think that soccer can really make that happen. Thank you. Yuri, please. I'll try to be quite quick as I am on the field. In 1998, we won the World Cup in France, and for the first time, France won that amazing competition. And above and beyond the emotion and the victory, which we still vibrate to today, it's the strength that put that team together, the strength that allowed us to overcome all different situations, and that allowed us to make our dreams and your dreams real. Today, the Paris Olympic Games in 2024, FIFA and all of us can join our efforts and our skills so as to allow everyone to become tomorrow's champions. Thank you very much indeed.
Bravo.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Thank you very much.
Merci. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Thank you very much. Merci. Merci à tous les trois. Oh, you live with the ball. Okay. No, I'm fine. Je profite de cette petite transition pour rappeler le hashtag utilisé sur les réseaux sociaux, notamment vous qui nous suivez à distance.
Especially those of you who are following us online, Sport for
Cinquième
SD.
et dernier objectif de l'accord de Paris pour le sport et le développement durable, organiser des événements sportifs plus
sporting events which are more responsible, aligned with the Paris Climate Agreement. And now, as you applaud, we will welcome Estanguet and Waserman.
You can change it. Tony Estanguet,
good afternoon. You are president of the Olympic and Paralympic Games Organizing Committee for 2024.
Los Angeles, where the next Summer Olympic Games will be held in 2028.
You are the equivalent of the
Casey, welcome and thank you
next
for
Olympic Games in
joining us here in
2028.
Paris.
Thank you for
Tony,
being here with us. So,
Tony,
Tony, 24 hours to go
des Jeux Olympiques de Paris 2024. J'imagine que
before the start of the Olympics. So I imagine it's a very tense time for you, for your team. It's a great moment for the world and France. Yes, indeed. 100 years now since France hosted the Olympics. It's an honor, responsibility, but also a wonderful opportunity to be and show the best of what we are. The Games is sport, but more than that. So in addition to performance and excitement, we have tried to produce the broadest possible collective dynamic to make a difference, to move beyond frontiers and use the Games as a wonderful accelerator for innovative and quick solutions. Obviously, the Games can't do everything, but nonetheless, they can inspire, bring together, and lead to commitments. We wanted the Games that would be more spectacular, more open, more inclusive, and more sustainable. Paris 2024 has set itself a target that is very clear but very hard to achieve. That's to say, cut our carbon footprint by half compared with previous Games. And to do this, obviously, it would be premature to say too much, but over the last 7 years, we have proved it's possible to act at every level: building, energy, nutrition, transport. We've shown that we can do things differently and use less so that the Games can help our fight against climate change. And maybe I'll say something about future generations, because this is why we're doing everything. In particular, we drew inspiration from the Finnish program, which sets aside 30 minutes of physical activity every day at school. And the French government has now taken this commitment to extend this measure to all French schools. So our goal is that generation 2024 should be more healthy than the previous generation. One last example is legacy. And above all, this is about making it possible to swim in the Seine. It hasn't been possible for decades, and thanks to the Minister of Sport and the Olympic Games Organizing Committee, we've been able to prove that it's possible to change things. And it's something that is about more than just sport. So after the beautiful Games of Tokyo 2020, we can't wait for Paris 2024 to begin, and then pass the baton to both Dakar 2026, Los Angeles 2028, so that they can grow the Games together. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tony.
Casey, you know Tony and his team very well. Paris 2024 and LA 2028 have so much in common. Take us behind the scenes of the Los Angeles Games, please.
Well, it's wonderful to be here with my friend Tony. We started this journey together some 9 years ago. Mr. President, if you doubt the ability for sport to bring people together, we started as competitors and now we dress the same. So. And I want to applaud the Paris Agreement for Sport and Sustainable Development, and we share these ambitions. We obviously start in Los Angeles from a sustainability perspective of not having to build a venue at all. We have an incredible baseline to start from. But we've always said that if we do nothing more than deliver the Games responsibly, we will have missed a big opportunity. And so, as you might know, LA is a city that's quite famous for its cars, but we want to use the Olympics as a way to teach Angelenos and people who visit Los Angeles the incredible changes that have happened in public transportation. And we really want the Games to be the catalyst to get people to use and understand the infrastructure that exists now and allows people to move around the city in a way that didn't exist, frankly, in 1984 when the Olympics were last in Los Angeles. Obviously, spectators and fans will be using our rail system, our buses to get around, and those things are now in place permanently long beyond LA 28. We obviously are exploring innovative ways to do things, whether it's leaving every venue we are in, office building, venue, better from a sustainability perspective for a long time to come after our 3 weeks are over, or even using the opportunity to bring awareness and opportunity to use things like sustainable aviation fuel to get visitors to Los Angeles, because by then it'll be a reality. Another thing we're very focused on is we will have some 70,000 volunteers. We obviously spend a lot of time thinking about identifying them and training them and they're such an important part of delivery, but we're more focused on how do we use them to place them in the job sector after the Olympics. The service economy is obviously fundamental to the American economy, and what a great opportunity and a badge of honor to have had your first job be at the Olympics, and that allowed you to be in the working sector when, frankly, public education is not doing enough in job training. And lastly, in partnership with the IOC, we are in the midst of our $160 million investment in youth sports in Los Angeles. It is truly a pre-games legacy. It's the largest single investment in the history of America in any single city to support youth sports. Now youth sports is free for all kids, delivered through the city of LA. We have doubled enrollment. We will touch 1 million kids and increase that opportunity. And in addition, for the first time in the history of Los Angeles, there's adaptive sport programs offered to public through public parks. So we appreciate the opportunity to be here. You'll hear a lot more from us as we approach 28. Until then, Tony, have a wonderful 17 days, and I look forward to seeing you in LA when you'll be much more relaxed than I will be.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're definitely looking forward to Paris 2024 and Los Angeles 2028. On va à présent regarder une vidéo.
We'll have a look at a video because I think it's more important to see pictures of what the Paris Games can be. Thank you.
We believe the Games can change society, but that they must also evolve with society. We want our Games to mark history so that there is no going back. We worked together to do things differently, so we can prove that there are other ways. Building less, building better. Choosing the alternative solutions, even if it wasn't the easiest way. And we did it all, not only for the Games, but also for a long-term legacy, to inspire an entire generation to get moving, to support the ones who will survive us, to empower all of those who believe we can change the world through sport. Faster, higher, stronger. Together.
Nous avons vu depuis le début de
we've
ce
seen,
sommet les 10
since the beginning
engagements
of
de
the summit,
l'accord de
the 10
Paris
commitments
pour
in
le
the Paris
sport,
Agreement for
pour le
sport
développement
and
durable.
sustainable
Je vous rappelle
development.
les 5
Let
terrains
me recall
thématiques,
you the
l'éducation et
5
l'emploi.
areas: education and
Nous avons
employment.
parlé de santé
We've talked
et de
about
nutrition,
health and nutrition,
d'égalité et d'inclusion,
equality
du
and
financement
inclusion,
et de la mesure
funding,
d'impact, évidemment.
and
Et nous
measuring
avons
impact.
également parlé à
And we've
l'instant
also,
avec
just
Tony
now,
Estanguet
with Tony
et
Estanguet and Casey
Waserman,
Waserman,
de l'héritage,
talked
de la
about
durabilité et
the
notamment
legacy of
l'héritage
sustainability
toutes ces formes des grands
in all
événements
the
sportifs.
different
Nous
forms
allons
this may
accueillir
have for
dans
major
quelques
sporting
instants
events.
le président de
And in
la
a few moments,
République
we're going to
française,
be welcoming the
mais nous
President of the French
souhaitions
Republic,
insister sur
but we'd
l'importance
like
des
also
thèmes
to
qui nous
emphasize the
réunissent
importance of the subjects that are
ici
bringing us
aujourd'hui.
together
On l'a
today.
dit, on l'a dit
We've
de
said
nombreuses
this
fois, le sport
several
a
times.
ce pouvoir de
Sport has
rassembler,
this power
a
of
ce
bringing
pouvoir
people together.
de nous mettre ici tous
To
ensemble.
bring
Nous
us, for
avons
instance,
tous
right
le
together
sentiment
here
que le sport
in this
peut
room.
changer
We
le
all have
monde.
the feeling that
Certains
sport
de
can
nos
change the
intervenants
world.
l'ont dit depuis
Well,
tout à
some
l'heure.
of our
Le
speakers have
sport a
said
ce
that
pouvoir.
since the
Le
beginning
sport a
of
ce
this
pouvoir
meeting.
de
Sport has that
rassembler.
power.
Le sport
It
a le
can
pouvoir
bring people
également
together,
de nous donner la
and it can
possibilité
give us
de
the
nous connaître,
possibility
de
of
nous
getting to
donner
know
la
one another,
possibilité de nous
of
reconnaître
recognizing
nous-mêmes,
one
le
another
pouvoir
and
de
ourselves,
donner la possibilité aux femmes, et je
to
pense
give
à elles
possibilities to
notamment.
women, and I was
Le
thinking
pouvoir
especially of them.
le sport
And
redonne le pouvoir sur notre
sport
corps. C'est des
gives
moments
us
qui sont
power back
importants.
over
Nous
our
allons
own
vivre
bodies. This is something
ensemble
very
ces Jeux
important,
olympiques,
and I think
puis
we'll
les
experience
Jeux
these Olympic
paralympiques de
Games and then the
Paris 2024.
Paralympic
C'est une
Games in
occasion
Paris
également
2024
pour la
together.
société
And I think this is also a
française
commitment
de
made by
découvrir
French
certains
society
aspects
to
du sport qui
discover
sont parfois
some of these aspects
méconnus.
of sport that are sometimes little known. I would like to thank you once again for being with us here today, so as to be able to take advantage of these moments together, to support this movement which is being born with this first summit for sport and sustainable development. And as I've said, this is the first, with the hope that very soon we'll have a second and a third one. We've talked about that. We just mentioned Los Angeles in 2028, but before Los Angeles 2028, there will be Dakar 2026 with the games there. And we are also meeting for that, because when we talk about the power of sport, we're also talking about the power of sport for our generations and generations to come. And it is for them that we are making these commitments, and that we will leave, we hope, a better planet, and that we are emphasizing this message of the power of sport. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask you please to rise to welcome the President of the French Republic, Mr. Emmanuel Macron.
Nous arrivons presque au terme de nos échanges.
We've almost come to the end of our
On
exchanges.
l'a vu tout au long de ce sommet.
Throughout this summit, we've seen there's a true movement which is underway concerning the 10 commitments in the Paris Agreement. And you can see here this picture of our heads of state and government who are making commitments for youth and sport and sustainable development.
Bosna i Hercegovina se angažuje za buduće generacije.
Un immense merci vraiment à toutes
A very large word of thanks to all of these delegations who have made commitments to supporting this initiative, Paris 2024, Los Angeles 2028, and in 2026, Dakar, which will be welcoming the Youth Olympics, the first Olympic event on African soil. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for very warmly welcoming the President of Senegal, Mr. Bassirou Diomaye Faye.
Excellences,
Your Excellencies, Mr. President of the French Republic, Macron, dear colleagues, heads of state and of government, dear President of the Executive Committee of the IOC, members of the Olympic movement, ladies and gentlemen, I would like at the very outset thank President Emmanuel Macron and Mr. Thomas Bach, President of the Executive Committee of the IOC, for their kind invitation to this summit for the sport and sustainable development at the beginning of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. I would like to address to France, the host country, and to the Olympic movement my warmest wishes for the success of this event dedicated to worldwide sporting excellence and human fellowship. Meeting here under the banner of the Olympic movement, we are giving new life to an antique tradition, the Olympic truce, which celebrates the ideals of peace, security, and mutual understanding between peoples. This tradition reminds us that sport isn't just competition. It's also humanity bringing together peoples beyond their boundaries and their differences. This is the whole meaning of the resolution of the General Assembly of the United Nations on building a better and peaceful world thanks to sport and the Olympic ideal. Nonetheless, we are obliged to state that the Olympic idea today is being trampled underfoot by the tragedy of war, violence in all its forms, and ever-growing inequalities within and between nations. Ladies and gentlemen, this summit, which is part of the continuity of the Paris Pact for Peoples on the Planet and the outlook for the summit for the future next September in New York, calls on us to recognize the urgent need to work in a more resolute way to bring about the Sustainable Development Goals. Inspired by the Olympic ideal, our meeting should awaken people to the existence of ongoing unfairnesses in a historic world order which is now out of date. If we want things to change, we need to change the rules of the game. I'm thinking of tax fraud, to other tax abuses and illicit financial flows, which are depriving our countries of vital resources for development financing. I'm thinking of the very important question of fair treatment of debt, as well as a rating system which is very biased, dealing with risk concerning Africa particularly. I'm thinking of the unfair conditions of energy transition, when some partners forbid financing abroad sources of fossil fuel, including gas, while they continue themselves to use much more heavily polluting sources of energy, such as coal. I'm thinking of the architecture of political, economic, and financial governance throughout the world, inherited from the Second World War, in the makeup of the bodies and decision-making processes no longer reflect the realities of our time. Many times, and correctly so, the Secretary General of the United Nations has alerted us to the risk of fragmentation of an international system which has become obsolete and non-inclusive. And we see that this is a system which perpetuates the status quo and ignores the legitimate needs of the great majority, create the seeds for it being called into question and the search for alternative ways forwards. The mutation of the BRICS group into a much broader Global South group shows to what extent the international system is contested and how urgent it is to reform it so as to make it more inclusive, fairer, and more transparent in the interest of everyone. Reform is possible if we have the necessary political will to do so. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in 2 years, Senegal will be welcoming the first Olympic event in Africa with the Youth Olympic Games. This is an honor that we share with Africa, our whole continent. Thanks to President Thomas Bach and thanks to the members of the IOC for the unanimous choice that they made, Senegal, for this historic event for international youth. Following the commitments that have been made, we are preparing this event taking account of 3 imperatives. First of all, co-construction between the government, the IOC, and the National Organizing Committee, dynamically led by Mr. Mamadou Diagne Ndiaye, President of the National Olympic Committee for Senegal. Then, keeping a handle on public expenditure by emphasizing rehabilitation and recreating existing infrastructures for the competitions. And then finally, strengthen follow-up on security, housing, transport, catering, and health issues inter alia. I would like to thank the IOC and all the partners who are supporting us to make this first Olympic event in Africa a festive event for youth of the world and a collective success that we will all be proud. I would also like to seize this opportunity to draw your attention to our summit on the unbearable scourge, which is racism and racial discrimination, which is continuing to plague sport in a context of hate speech and xenophobic speech simply becoming banal. Facing racism and racial discrimination, we must remain standing and unshakable. This is how we can best protect the fundamental values of the Olympic movement and celebrate all of us together its magnificent motto, Citius, Altius, Fortius. I thank you for your kind attention.
Merci.
Thank you so much.
Le Président.
Thank you so much, President. To close this first summit on sport for sustainable development, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to the French President, Emmanuel Macron.
Majesté, Mesdames, Messieurs les
Your Majesty, heads of state and government, ladies and gentlemen, ministers,
Mesdames, Messieurs les membres du Comité international,
ladies and gentlemen from the IOC,
membres du mouvement sportif,
members of the sports associations in your various ranks and qualities. I'd like to welcome everyone in this room. Firstly, thank you so much for giving up your time to be with us here today on the eve of the Olympic and Paralympic Games of Paris 2024. Thank you for taking this time out, which is a special moment for diplomacy and reflection. And in this field of sport, we need to try to take our shared program together. Thank you, President, for what you've just said. I can but agree with you concerning the need to reform international government, its funding, and to fight more effectively all sorts of inequalities, to have real international taxation, a change in governance of bodies such as the UN, the IMF and World Bank. That's what the pact that we launched a year ago is all about. Many of you were there and you've agreed to be part of that, new governments. That's the program we need to take forward now in real terms. So on the eve of these games, although I know Tony has just spoken, I want to say how proud we are because 7 years ago, Tony, the mayor of Paris, and the various representatives of the regional and local authorities got together to talk about organizing these games. I'd like to thank them for the confidence they placed in us. And I think with this summit, we are taking a concrete step forward towards our shared goal. The IOC, along with other international organizations represented, and of course the UN and all its associated bodies, have the responsibility, therefore, of adopting this new doctrine and applying the principle of universalism, that's to say, to build bridges in order to prevent the world from breaking up. And whether it's education or culture or economics and financial issues, war and peace, right the way through to sport, we need to have this universalist approach to everything. And the universal approach to the Games justifies a summit on sport and sustainable development. So all of us here, I'm sure, subscribe to these 10 commitments. I commend you for that. I'd like to thank the Minister for European and Foreign Affairs, the AFD and its opponents, and all of you for committing to supporting these 10 goals and this UN-based system that will enable us to move forward, drawing on various projects and initiatives. I'd also like to express my gratitude to the major organizations that have taken commitments, not just countries, but also the sporting movements themselves. But in addition to what you've already decided, let's say there's a vast mobilization that's underway, I want to say that, as I see it, there is, as it were, a crossroads involving sport, education and health. All these strands come together, and it's at that point where they intersect we can produce synergies around what already exists and be more effective and efficient in European Western countries, and also to fight the inequalities that we mentioned, sport, because as you said, it's an aim in of itself for young people. It improves quality of life. It's a goal because it's a way of sharing experiences. We'll see over the next 3 weeks and later with the Paralympic Games. So we need to keep continually developing sports facilities and improve its presence in education. It's what we've done in France with the Minister and the IOC, and this has led to 5,000 new sports fields that are in the pipeline for sport and parasport. And above all, I want to thank FIFA and the NBA because you've been working with us in France and AFD since 2018 to get everything done that we've done in Côte d'Ivoire, building facilities, and you've added to that. Thank you very much. And I would invite all sports federations to join in with that and go further because wherever those facilities do not exist, we have to build them so that our young people can play. There are lots of our own neighborhoods where this needs to be done. Swimming pools, dojos, soccer fields, basketball courts, all of this needs to be done to make sport accessible and grow it. This is a goal we need to take further and faster. At the same time, we need to support Africa, Latin America, and Asia to develop their infrastructure for the major events. This is what was done by President Gianni recently. I myself saw what happened with the basketball tournaments there. And the international community, through funding, has to support those countries that wish to move in that direction. And the 2026 Games you've organized, President, I think, for your country and for the whole region are a wonderful opportunity to move closer to that goal. In addition to sport itself and its facilities, there's, of course, training. The training of athletes, what we do with the sports bodies, and we need to continue with that. Then there's sport and education, because with sport, you gain confidence, you add to what you can learn at school, and this has been done in France. I'm trying to explain each time that what we've done for ourselves is something that we should allow others to do. And that's my respectful and harmonious approach to diplomacy. As far as what we've done in these games, we have done more through schools. So we had lots of extracurricular associations, but now in schools, it's 30 minutes compulsory at primary and secondary level, and even more higher up the scale. And we can follow various models, whether it be the Finnish one or others. We've seen how important sport is for growing confidence and improving health. And we need to continue investing and supporting educational systems around the world to achieve that goal. And this is crucial. We need to keep going in this direction and make sport a driver for inclusion, moving towards education and employment. And I'd like to thank Sport dans la Ville and others who've done this. We were in Brazil organizing this sort of initiative with right. That's to say, through sport, you get into schools, into apprenticeships, you're bringing young people to the labor market. It's a wonderful opportunity for growing employability. And this is why I fully subscribe to what you said, President. It's in sport that we have to be even more exemplary concerning values for education. This is why what IOC has done. I thank you for that, by the federations represented here. Multiplying our efforts in many countries, including France, we need to keep going in that direction. I would invite everyone to redouble your efforts. In sport, there is no room either for racism or anti-Semitism or any form of gender or other type of discrimination. There is no hatred in sport. There is no justification for any kind of discrimination among the athletes, among those that train them, or among the audience and the general public Washington, ever. And last but not least, health. Obviously, sport is a fabulous driver for improving health. And here I want to commend all the work done by the international organizations represented here, in many ways, actually. And there's an intersection, too, of sport and sustainable development, because it's one of the best forms of prevention, because one of the worst epidemics that we have, particularly in developing countries, is obesity and youth obesity. has increased since COVID, and the best way of preventing it is playing sport from the very beginning, among the youngest, every day. And it's the most virtuous and cost-effective way of preventing and avoiding this obesity pandemic. And sport also reveals health problems that you wouldn't see elsewhere and otherwise. And it's a wonderful driver of health, and I'd like to thank all the associations and the volunteer workers that we need to continue supporting. But this is why sport, health and nutrition intersect. I want to thank the World Food Programme for that. I can tell you next year in France, next March, we'll be holding a conference on this, reporting on what's been done in France so that people at school and in their clubs can get decent meals. We've worked with the school canteens, free breakfasts, €1 canteen meals, and everything that we will do will move in that direction, improving the quality of food for our children, feeding them better. That's vital. And the transformation that is now taking place is taking us in that direction. I don't want to take up any more of your time because I know you have worked hard and had very lengthy discussions, but I want to stress this sport per se, sport and education, sport and health, because it's a development agenda where the cooperation between states, governments, international organizations, WHO, UNESCO, the World Food Programme, IOC, etc. That is what will produce results, this synergy. And everything we can do with the sports movement in that sense is vital and fundamental. Thank you so much. Thank you for your commitment with these games. We will highlight new initiatives that we're launching. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for all the funding that's going into Africa, South America, or Latin America, and Asia. And I want to thank you all for your efforts to take us along that road. We're immensely proud of these games. We'll be sharing this experience as of tomorrow along the Seine and in all the various events. I'd like to wish Senegal the best of luck for the Youth Olympics in 2026 and our American friends in 2028. I know the pressure will begin to rise from now on. A few weeks from today, we'll be handing you the flame, but I want to thank you for everything you've done. We'll be counting on you, and we will take forward these 10 commitments taken today. And once again, I thank the AOC. I sincerely wish you some wonderful Olympic and Paralympics here in Paris in 2024. Long live the Games. Thank you.
Comme vous voulez. Monsieur le Président,
Mr. President.
Je vous en prie.
Yes, please.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Mesdames et messieurs, nous voici arrivés.
Ladies and gentlemen, so we've come to the end of our summit. We've had all these experiences showing us how much sport can accelerate equality, inclusion, health, nutrition, education. I would like to ask the audience for just a few more moments of patience. We will let the heads of state leave the room, and will only leave once they have made their exit. If you would be kind enough to wait for the heads of state to leave the room before leaving yourselves. So just in a few moments, for the members of our audience who remain with us, we'll go on discovering some sports. Some of which have only been on the Olympic program for a short number of years. We'll let the heads of state make their exit. So we'll conclude our summit on a high note. I'll suggest a bit of sport with a live show of BMX, freestyle soccer. And once the show has ended, we will also invite you to follow the heads of state toward the exits. So I will call right now on Christine, Agnès Moubli, who celebrated his 22nd birthday 2 days ago, to remain just for a few moments so you can have a look at this show. And I'll also ask two professional BMX riders, Julien Baron and Anna Rahem, Simon Huguin, who will also be coming here to the microphone in just a few moments.
Allez, Paris 2024, on est là avec vous.
Paris 2024, we're here with you, and we will give you an extreme action sport show.
Je sais, d'habitude,
I know that usually we don't have this freestyle in such a space, but we have with us three professionals who have made the trip specially to be with us. Can you please applaud our friends here?
Vous pourrez retrouver les sports d'action.
Action sport you can find at the Place de la Concorde in the 2024 Olympics with the best riders in the world who are with us here. The best rider is our friend Azoulay. We also have Refugee and Logan with his ball. You know that he is the European champion of freestyle soccer. Also Julien Barin, who is riding the Waserman squat. It's this form of bicycle which you're seeing. And Julien began a bit later. He began BMX in Normandy. Here we have our friend Anatole, who is professional and has been so for about 2 years. He's one of the best riders in the world. Julien Baron, you have to know that he trained on a very small surface in Normandy, just 2 meters by 2 meters, because there were no other facilities for this. We can apply him and our friend Logan, who is also here. He spent his whole life with his ball, and we're talking about sport and insertion. He's an excellent example of this because sport has made him the freer rider in freestyle soccer, and our friend Anatole is just behind him, and you can see it's been one of the biggest competitions in the world. And just to remind you, you can see all of those action sports at the Place de la Concorde, where there'll be many demonstrations and competitions with the best riders in the world will be there in BMX, skateboard, and it's a great pleasure to see this action sport here. And have a good look. Anatole, who is giving us one of his special moves. We call it a time machine. It's one of the most difficult moves. And we also see Julien Baron. And I'd like to applaud as loudly as possible for them and look at all of the physical contact and the energy here. we can see this is how our sports work. This is something we should applaud very loudly. All together for 2024. And we'll have a crescendo with ever more crazier moves. We know we don't usually hear you applaud this sort of thing, but if you could put your hands together for this exceptional performance. And this is just a little teaser of all the things you'll see at the Place de la Concorde. You need to know that there will be all these different initiatives for extreme sport. You'll be able to discover action sports, and it will be a huge pleasure for everyone. Paris 2024.